It's a no bullshit SEO podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You can swear, it's in the name.
So that's fine. That's what it is. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to the No Bullshit SEO podcast. It is our 1 year birthday of 18 Growth, as we can see with the bit of birthday paraphernalia we've got going on.
Yeah.
Mike and I realised yesterday that we actually, up until then, hadn't asked each other how our days had gone at all, any day in the first year.
Yeah.
And we also didn't really know what to do for our birthday. We didn't just want to go out and get pissed, so we thought that we would talk on camera.
Yeah. Here we are.
Here we go. Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you, mate.
That'll do, that's good.
Yeah. I mean, well, this is it, isn't it? So I think the purpose of when we're thinking about doing this podcast now, and we're just basically doing this on the fly, and we made some notes and stuff like that, but we just really want to recap our first year, don't we? You know, it's almost like you said, like it's a diary entry, right?
Yeah, because it has to be like journaling, diary entries, or whatever. The point of it is that you're taking the time for yourself to reflect on things, and this is very much our version of reflecting on our first year. But also because we know that that's not really something that people would do on a podcast. Yeah. So when we knew that, we had to kind of like just get a microphone, set up a camera, and start talking.
Yeah. I mean, let's get into it. So I mean, the beginning was like it's going to happen all the time. By the way, as you know, like obviously you've written down kind of our plan in the beginning was that Ronnie would kind of ask most of the questions and we'd go like that, but naturally, as seems to happen, I tend to hijack things. So
and I've got no questions ready, so it's
all right. That's fine. That's cool. So yeah, I mean the beginning. So it's like literally a year ago. Go back till June, and that was it. We were both freelance, weren't we? You'd set up on your own. You'd set up the brand of 18 Growth and everything like that. I'd set up on my own as Friend Media, which obviously took a lot of thought. Just use my creative. Use my second name, and then I seen that you were doing the same thing I was doing, and like it was like oh, it's like my really cool neighbour that is like doing the same thing I'm doing. Like totally made sense to collaborate, really. You know.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't know that at the time, but
yeah. I mean, this might be something that I'll say that you could take offence to, but or you could relate to it. But I feel like throughout a career or life or whatever, you meet people, and some people you connect with, and some people you don't.
Yeah, that's true.
And unfortunately, probably for the people that I connect with, I seem to connect with them if they mirror some of the things that make me who I am. The word we like to use sometimes, a bit of a maverick, right? Perhaps a square peg in a round hole, and that's how we connected throughout the last few years. Yeah. When we kind of knew that we were kind of going down a similar thing. After a couple of FaceTimes, it was very much like, very Mike-esque. Let's go to a skate park and talk about it. Yeah. Obviously, I was not on a skateboard. I was on a sofa drinking coffee, but that was the origins. Really,
that was it. So, in fact, I remember when you went out on your own, I'd sent you a message, and I was like, I was like, awesome. I was like really chuffed for you. Do you know what I mean? I was like, yes, that was it. And I think because you did it first as well, there's part of me that like wanted to do it. In fact, I tried to go out on my own a couple of times and failed. I sort of like got pulled back in, you know. Yeah. I mean, like I ended up working with Yale for 3 months. Like Jesus, that's like that's like.
That's a topic for another podcast. We'll put it there.
God, man. I don't know what the legal ramifications are on that.
We'll find it out before the next podcast.
Yeah, true. And that was it. I kept getting pulled back in, and I'd just come out of basically a failed startup as well. So it's almost like when we chatted and stuff, I had an idea of what like I wanted to build with you, and we were working that out. But like mainly, I had an idea of what not to do. Do you know what I mean? Like I had that year of like that basically a failed startup, like that I had no kind of control over, you know. And like I was like let's not do that. Do you know what I mean? Let's not like have massive overheads and all the crap and the bullshit that we don't need. Do you know what I mean? Let's take on the right clients. You know,
that key word there again, bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a good place to start. The typical place to start anything is what do you want to do, but what we kind of started at is what do we absolutely not want to become.
Yeah.
And we wanted to build our version of what already exists, that we've experienced, that we also appreciate and respect, and sometimes love, sometimes hate.
Yeah.
But it was our version of the bullshit that we wanted to do, wasn't it? And we knew we could do that together.
Yeah, that was it. Like literally, we were like, we don't want that fucking office in, and like, you know, it's 30 people, it's full service, it's everything to everybody, it's very bland, like the colours are sort of very safe, and like they've got the pool table and the couch and Mr. Client, and then they've got account managers and in it, you know, like literally, I just want to blow my brains out. Right? It's like, and that was when we came up with like build differently, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Right? You know, let's do good work, but let's do it different. Do you know what I mean? So that was the thing. I mean, obviously, it's not been sort of smooth sailing, has it? Like, you know.
Yeah, but it's nothing ever really is it? So you kind of have to pick your own torture. But a quote I read yesterday that I really liked was, "I'm tired of explaining the fire. It burns because it must." And to me, that was a good way of kind of summarising what we've done with 18 Growth, because what we're doing and what we wake up and do every single day, there's nothing else that I could do. There's nothing else that I would get myself to do. This is exactly what I've always wanted to do. There's this expression of ourselves and our version of something in the world. Yeah,
that's it. And I like, I think it's taken some time to adjust as well, to like not, you know, you really don't realise how much you are in a system, or like, I've always had like a boss, you know, like that pressure to suddenly like not have that. It's taken me a while to kind of almost kind of get that off my shoulders, or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like, but it's weird. Like,
yeah, but also it's the realization that those things are a thing for a reason. Like, bosses exist for a reason, and people have a boss for a reason, because you need bosses, and bosses are good. But if we don't want that, what do we do in order to still have the things that a boss provides? And there's like 1,000 versions of those things every single week that we have to make our way, because we just are contrarians and refuse to do it the right and usual way. Yeah. Despite knowing it works. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely, man. So where did we go? Like, so where do we? So like, if we were to go through the timeline of what happened. Mm-hmm. So we met at the skate park, and that was Greystone.
Yeah.
And like, we were like pretty much like, let's work together. Mm-hmm. In fact, more than that, let's put all our thing into one box. And then we had a discussion around brand, didn't we? Mm-hmm. Like, what should we call ourselves? And like, I loved the 18 Growth thing, because when you explained it to me, it's just the fundamental point of the name. It's just, it's no bullshit. It doesn't sound like, it'd be so easy to call ourselves like, you know, physical-esque digital or something.
We spoke about things like relevance, and we were looking at domains like everybody does, but it's when you orient everything around the words no bullshit as a company, it kind of stops you doing almost everything that you usually would go to do. Every reflex you have, it's like, oh, this is bullshit though. You know, like coming up with a name, why? What's wrong with this one? Nothing. Okay, we move on. It almost forces like a culture in our brains off the bat of like just rigorous persistence to do whatever that doesn't seem like bullshit. You're always arguing with yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it, right? That's because you've got all these years of like, and obviously I've got a few more years, unfortunately, of like the system or whatever. Every time you make a decision, it's like, like, shall we get an office? Okay, let's look at Bruntwood. Let's look at like these other things, and then we're like, why? What the fuck? you know?
Yeah,
Why?
what's the alternative to that is our version? And that's kind of what we do for everything, right?
Yeah.
Probably a good thing to maybe go on to would be like our first few months. It was kind of weird. Well, everything was weird and everything will continue to be weird with us. But it was particularly weird because the company started 27th of June, exactly, I think. July, we were getting together. It wasn't until late October that I actually dropped out of university because it was a kind of accident that my interest in doing my freelance marketing work that I've always been passionate about and enjoyed, it's kind of an accident that that interest kind of compounded and made me really want to pursue it. So it wasn't until the end of October is my point that I was actually kind of focusing on it full time. I was still going to lectures learning about behavioural science or, psychology of whatever I was meant to be listening to in the lecture that I wasn't actually listening to, obviously.
Yeah.
But how would you describe those first 3 months? Everyone works in 3 months, don't they? If you could package up the first 3 months from start of July to me leaving university, how would you describe that period?
I mean that period. So, like, I was super excited, but then there was that kind of like realization sort of wave, and then you get the questions from the third parties, you know, who are like, you're doing what with who, and then it's like, are you sure? Can you trust them?
I've got to win your wife over.
Well,
We'll just get straight to it.
What if it doesn't work and like that? And obviously, being my wife living with me and being a creative person, quite a few ideas come across the board, and she's like, "What now? Like, you're going to go to Antarctica and go and
what was wrong with Yell, Mike?"
Exactly. But like, you know what I noticed as well, at the same time, she was like so happy for me because it was almost, I'd say I almost had like a 40-year kind of realization within that 3-month period of like, I was like, oh shit, yeah, that's why I didn't fit anywhere. That's why like I could never, with a company like, I had good jobs, but like it got to a point where like they just didn't want me anywhere near the board or like, on the decision making, because I just I
disruptive.
Too disruptive, yeah, and like
by being you.
And like getting censored as well, like, oh, don't say that to the client. Well, why not say this to the client, this idea? Well, because they don't pay for that idea. So what, I just sit on the idea? They were like, well, yeah, let's first see if they're gonna invest a bit more, and then we wanted to say the idea. And I'm like, what? And then I'd forget and just blurt it out in a meeting, and like
just say it anyway.
Say it anyway, because I just hated everything about that, that restrictions and like. And then obviously at the same time, and I still don't know now because I've never done the test with ADHD, and obviously we can get into that at some point. You're neurodivergent.
Yeah.
But I know that I've always known that I was dyslexic, but I've never done a test. But also I don't still know about that. But the more you tell me about it, and the more like I discover and read about it, it's like, God, that really makes sense. Why? Like I think I was both like misinterpreted, but then also, even if I was, I wouldn't have ever been able to fit in that environment. Do you know what I mean?
Like you can't find it in yourself to get hung up or even blame others for being misunderstood, quite frankly, when you didn't really know who you were anyway.
Yeah.
And the whole theme of everything for you and I, especially, I mean, obviously you start as a director, right? But then obviously what that actually means gets more and more intense as each day goes on. But at the core of that is like learning who you are and what works for you and how you can be your best. And that was kind of one of the things that helped us connect early on, was my interest in things like Buddhism, meditation, and you helped recommend some Buddhist temples in Manchester.
That's right.
And it's about having that compassion with yourself to kind of think, well, what do I require in this instance? and almost always the answer is not what it has been for the last decades.
Yeah.
And you realise that now, and it's like, oh, so I've got to achieve a new state of being as well as complete my goals for this business called 18 Growth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot, but I had never, although other maybe third party people, you know, and your mum and dad and everybody else, and they have like kind of worry, and that's fine, they worry, it's normal, and doubts and stuff like that, but I never doubted that we would be successful.
You used to always say that, didn't you? I always knew. Yeah.
I know, like it's written. I mean, you know, some religions it's written, right?
It's written there.
It's apparently someone wrote on there, like I know it will work, and that's, you know, massively because of you, and like just your ability and your energy and your different way of thinking. It just literally will work. And like I've got no doubt. And I actually said to you, remember in the skate park, I said, though our problem won't be if we make it, it will be how do we deal with stuff when we are making it, when we are turning over whatever the big amount is. How are we going to navigate that without letting that money or that the corruptive forces that come with that? Because I've seen that as well. Yeah. Like how it's more like how will we navigate that period of our growth when we get there? You know, basically, you know, will we go off the rails, buy Lambos and just put it all up our nose, white powder? Like, and that won't happen because we're not those sort of people. But like, money's a corruptive force. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I've seen that growing up. So like, that was the only, like, the how, but the if it would work, it was never a question. And the other thing as well, which I didn't anticipate, and this is like, I suppose my 5p of advice to anyone that is setting up on their own, that is like almost by like going out on your own and cutting ties with whatever, you know, brand or big company you're part of, you open yourself way up to like much more people. Like I've had like inbound inquiries coming to me, people I've worked with like 2-3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that were like, oh, I've seen you gone out on your own now. Let's have a chat. Yeah. Well, actually, they wouldn't want to talk to me before because they didn't like the 30-person agency bullshit, whatever bullshit I was in. Because they've seen that, you know what I mean?
They now want to see what you are capable of, and that's why, and that's what we are doing with 18 Growth is how can we make our version? That's why we keep going back to that. And the thing is with when what you want is so strong and seems so clear to you, like the vision of the way a company should be, when we're in our position, we're always hyper aware of the things that could put any of that at risk. You know, like like you were saying, from the start, you knew it wasn't a case of if, it was a case of when can we still keep and maintain the same kind of secure vision and because it's very easy, as you know, what we're experiencing is the bureaucracy and the admin and the things that are very required at the business level that obviously isn't a natural interest, let's say, but all of those things, if we just go, yeah, sure, just put the standard statutory sick pay writing within this thing so someone can sign it, that all of those things are things that put us at risk to not feeling like we've done things exactly the way we want to. So that's the cost of having a vision in mind, is that everything is a risk to the vision, isn't it? Yeah,
absolutely. I think we've got like a really gut feel for that. It's almost like a physical repel, isn't it? Like when we went to look at, when ironically we rented this place just for the day. This isn't our pad or whatever. And to be fair, you know, it wasn't cheap, but they'll probably see this. But yeah, we went to look at a couple of offices and stuff like that, and my heart just died. I felt like, you know, I was like physical reaction to this. Oh no, this is not good. But we actually blagged a free office, right?
Yes.
Which was ace. So how that come about is again, somebody that I knew, like really cool guy, family business. I put out a post saying, I'll swap free SEO for an office space. Anyone interested? And got like 3 replies. So, but obviously one of them I knew the guy already. He's a really cool guy. So we did that, didn't we? We had this space, and that was weird. It was, wasn't it? It was a sort of a big room, and we were like, oh, we're in a room now. And we remember you bought me a cactus.
Yeah.
And we had our screens and we set it up, and it had a bit of novelty vibe about it, didn't it? And I like the whiteboard and that, but then we never used it, did we?
Yeah, because anything like that kind of it restricts growth, right? Because I would feel bad if I didn't go to that office. However, once I dropped out of university, which was in Salford, where the office was, the office is no longer relevant. Yeah. Right? So but I'm not able to make decisions based on relevance. Instead, you have to make it based on like what you know is right in any given second, based on what you feel. Yeah. Which is why, but so with the office thing, it's something that is almost a privilege of a early stage startup, let's say, isn't it? Where it's almost you can do anything you want. I've always been fascinated with Steve Jobs' explanation of when you realise that life is you can just push something here and something will fall out the other side, and that everything anywhere was just made by someone. Yeah. Then you can just make life to be however you want. And in the early stages of startup, that's particularly the case. But you can make your life and make a life and an organism. Yeah. And you can choose to do I scratch your back and you scratch mine. Yeah. For anyone,
But I mean, even. I think that was it. I mean, looking back now, we can say now it didn't suit us now, but for the time we had it, I guess it did provide some good moments of incubation, isn't it? Like we did come up with some good stuff on that whiteboard, came up with Jerry on that, right? Which I'm sure we'd talk about later or whatever, but like it was cool actually, and it was nice having. Because our office was right next door to the other office in the same sort of building. It was nice having other people there and that sort of environment. I mean, it definitely felt like kind of supported and stuff like that. And
they were great, yeah.
And it was good, but it just didn't suit our lifestyles, did it? You've just come back from Barcelona, like I can't remember where else you've been, like Verona or whatever. Like I go and work in a forest or whatever. Like it just.
You've been with Robin Hood.
The environment gives you creativity. From the environment.
That incubation that you mentioned is so important, and the creativity from the environment is crucial to us. But we've got to over a year now of this company together, and we probably sit down and speak about nothing. So what we're trying to say here.
We speak about nothing. Yeah, basically this podcast.
Because we'll always be speaking. There'll always be things that we'll talk about. There are always things to talk about, obviously. Yeah. But that's almost like agenda-led stuff. Do you know what I mean? So what would be the opposite of agenda-led conversation? Where you just shoot the shit.
That's
shoot the shit. But we're lucky if we have one window of that a week. Yeah. So when we were able to have that environment where we were both local to something where we could turn up and spend as many hours as possible writing whatever nonsense on a whiteboard. Yeah. That would have been very important to get to where we are now. And we have a time capsule of that period that involves like the AI and the industry, and we understand the industry's growth and change through a lot of incubation that we had during that period. So if we weren't able to, if we were as fast paced and not sitting down shooting the shit like we did now back then, we wouldn't be as good. Do you know what I mean?
No, I totally get it. It was a kind of it was like a ramp up period, I suppose. But actually, it was interesting though. Like our growth wasn't like, so come from another startup where it was like, right, day one, get loads of staff. Day two, don't spend on marketing because no startups want to do that, and like let's just sell just desperately, get like that's sort of what it seemed, right? Yeah. But we didn't panic, although we didn't get paid for like months to start with, right? We didn't take any money out.
Yeah, we said from the get go, didn't we? It was like we're not gonna touch the money for as long as we can.
Yeah. And interestingly, we started with no money. Like we had no money, got no investment. We're still, private to start.
That's a lie. I put 1,000 in just to get the £50 cash back from the bank.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah.
And I took that after like 8 months or something.
Yeah. Back for snacks and stuff.
£50 good. We got a fan and a cactus for the office.
Yeah.
That lasted 2 weeks.
But literally, that was it. And I think we're quite lucky to have that period looking back.
Mm-hmm.
Because we started off and we did toy with the idea that we would offer PPC as well, because there was some experience in that, and with sort of other connections I've got, we could do that. But then, and there's other things we dance with as well, and then they never came to fruition. Do you know what I mean? That was always that. Let's just build what everyone else has got, and then we drilled and we focused, and we pretty much keep doing that all the time, don't we?
Yeah, it's ruthless optimization towards and reminding yourself the path that you're trying to create. When you have the North Star, which is required in order for everybody in the organism to stay focused on what you're building, what that means is constantly you're aware of everything you must reject.
Yeah.
And that is particularly difficult when you own and run the business and you already know of half a dozen, even more ways that you could very easily just do what you will get the goals in. You could get the clients this way, you could get the money this way, get the status this way, because you know the ways, but it's not quite our way.
No.
But we were very patient in figuring that out, which is a good way to start talking about Jerry, I think.
Jerry.
Because that's about that.